Hey, welcome everybody to the Paws and Profits podcast. I'm Karen Laws, the interior dog trainer, and in the house today with me, I have Kyla Denault of Easy Breezy Dog Training. And Kyla's not just your average dog trainer. Believe me, she's outstanding at what she does with dogs, but more than that, she has got a resume that would blow your mind with the businesses that she has run, the things that she's founded. She volunteers on everything from dogs to dancing. And she's got a story to tell. She's an author. She's a dog trainer. She's a dancer. She's a volunteer person. She's a pillar in her community. So without further ado, let's hear more from Kyla. Kyla, welcome. It's good to
Thank you
have
so
you
much for the introduction, Karen.
here. So tell our viewers a little bit about your journey to becoming a dog trainer and even how you found, I think it's a kind of a unique name, and
Yeah,
how you chose dog training, where you were before, and sort of how you came to be here.
yeah, sure. I grew up in a small town in Northern Ontario, a little town called Iroquois Falls, which is about an hour northeast of Timmins. So growing up literally in the bush, I grew up hunting and fishing my whole life. So my dad's brother had a farm, a pheasant farm, and had like a lot of hunting dogs, right? So he'd have groups of people go out. They would, hide the birds in the fields and then training the dogs on sort of tracking and oh, there's an air show going on today. So if you hear, I think the F-18s are just flying over my house right now. So if you hear some rumbling, it's not an earthquake. It's the F-18s that are flying by.
Okay.
Um, but I was so I love animals since I was a little kid. I was always like dogs, cats, you name it. And I absolutely love my time out on the farm. And it was so fascinating to see these dogs, right? And you see it, it's instinctual, right? You got these little puppies, these, 8 to 12 puppies, and you can tell, like right from day one, they're like on the birds, retrieving, and it was just so fascinating. But my whole journey, my whole career was in the corporate world. I went to college for business, did a lot of event planning, coordination throughout my career, and I loved it. I was really good at it. But I really strongly believe that path that I took in the corporate world gave me the skills that I needed to become a dog trainer.
Mhm.
Um, then in the early 2000s, I was working for the air traffic controllers in Ottawa, and one of them's like, "Hey, can you babysit Leo for me?" It was this sweetheart of a Rottweiler, and I had my old dog Storm at the time, so started babysitting Leo. And then another air traffic controller is like, "Hey, can you babysit Starbuck?" And I was like, "Sure." And at that time, I looked around, and this is I don't even think the internet was around that back then, or maybe
I know
just
that.
starting,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Like I come from a world where, we didn't have cell phones and internet back when I was in high school or even college for that matter. I'm totally dating myself here, but um uh I started researching. I'm like, there was no cage-free dog kennels at that time, right? It was all, the runs and the cages. And I'm like, my dog Storm, it was just no, that wouldn't be a good environment for him. He was very sensitive. If ever I left him, he wouldn't eat for 3 days.
Oh boy.
So I was like, this could be something. So I started doing more boarding. And in 2006, I was 27 years old, single, and I bought 4 acres, 100-year-old house out in the country, a little town called St. Albert. And if I've ever been to Ottawa, there's the cheese curd factory that I
Okay.
lived 3 minutes away from, which was really dangerous. Those years living so close to all that yummy cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, I opened up Country Living Dog Resort, cage free, and I was working full time and running a full time business.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Definitely,
Been
yeah,
there, done that. Yep.
it is exhausting.
Mhm.
16-hour days, 7 days a week. I get up early in the morning, I take the dogs out. Luckily, I had a friend who was deciding to sort of find himself and was practicing Buddhism. And I'm like, you live with me, I will feed you and give you a roof over your head for free if you take care of the dogs during the day while I'm away.
Nice.
And yeah, sometimes had up 17, 18 dogs in my house.
Wow.
And it was crazy, lots of energy, and I burnt myself out, right?
Yeah.
16-hour days, like just working that corporate life and then coming home and then being on with the dogs around me all the time. Because I didn't have the funds at that time to build their own facility, which was
Right.
the plan.
Mhm.
But right, I was building up to that point. So all the dogs were in my house.
So what were the signs for you that told you were burned out or something needed to happen? Did you just crash and burn or what? Because often the burnout's a big topic in business.
Yeah,
And people, and I'm pretty sure I used to have people telling me that I was burned out, but I wouldn't, my personality style wouldn't allow me to believe that. So
exactly.
what were your triggers or what were the signs that was the huge message that said, I need to step back here and take a look?
So I decided to sell the business January of 2009. Yeah, 2009. That summer before, so
Mhm.
2008, I got so sick that month of August. My whole body just shut right down.
Mhm.
And I was on the couch for a month. I thought I had a very bad head cold. I ended up, I think, because my uh, body had been working for so long
Mhm.
and I didn't take a break, I all of a sudden developed a severe ragweed allergy.
Oh
And at
boy.
that time, I thought I was allergic to dogs, right?
Oops.
Because I'm surrounded by dogs.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so like, I was going through a box of Kleenex every 2 days.
Wow.
And I was really worried. I'm like, I've like all of a sudden developed this allergy to dogs. Anyways, it ended up being ragweed. And I looked out of my field, right? Because I've got 4 acres here, and my whole
Mhm.
field is ragweed. So
Mhm.
I was just, that was kind of the start of me just feeling exhausted.
Yeah.
And like I was doing this all alone, right? I've single
Mhm.
income, trying to get a
Mhm.
business off the ground. There's the whole financial
Yeah.
stress behind that. And
Right.
at that time in my life, right, I had debt, I was young. I was in, my late 20s. So
Mhm. Mhm.
still kind of not financially sound like I am, like I was when I decided to do this full time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Cool.
was just like to the point where I was like, no, this is, and then it was really Christmas 2008. I had 18 dogs in my house.
Oh,
And then
Christmas.
that was just like, I'm done. I am
Yeah.
so done. And I
Yeah.
remember it was like that flick of a switch in my head. I'm done.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then just started that process. I was lucky. I actually sold the business. I sold the house and business to someone who
Mhm.
ran it up until, because like I had been in business for 7 years by that point, right? I had
Wow.
developed a really good base of clients, a really good reputation.
All that
The
without the internet.
all of that without the internet. I used to put
Yeah.
ads in the papers, in
Yep.
the little local papers and stuff, and flyers up downtown
Flyers
Ottawa
everywhere.
on the light
Mhm.
posts and stuff, and leaving business cards places, right?
Yep. The old
So
way, hoofing it around and being physically present. There's still some merit to that, but it's not,
100%. Yeah, and
it,
it's that verbal, like that referrals, right?
right.
People referring,
Exactly.
word of mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was lucky to sell it. Unfortunately, they were not able to survive that first year of the pandemic because, as you know, right, everything shut down. Boarding kennels really suffered in daycares that first kind of 2 years. So unfortunately, they had to shut down, which was really sad for me to sort of see because they were very successful as well. And the cage-free environment worked, right? It's not for all dogs.
No.
Uh, it's like daycare, right? It's
Mhm.
it's not for all dogs. Like my dog Finley, not a
Mhm.
daycare dog, not a cage-free dog.
Mhm.
But it definitely worked for a
But
lot of dogs.
boarding, and this is a side conversation, but boarding was considered an essential service. Eventually, it didn't take long into the pandemic because we stayed open, because I was a boarding and training facility. So we stayed open under the boarding and training banner. So, but
Yeah, like I remember the first lockdown, like everything was shut
yeah,
down, and then
everything
they deemed
shut
us
down.
essential that second
Yeah,
shutdown, but then the third we weren't, and it was just such a
that's right.
nightmare.
That was a
So
nightmare.
stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so
when you decided you were burned out and you needed to, I'm done, I have to sell. What was your vision? Like, how did you, because burnout can do some weird things to your mind
big time.
and actually leave you stuck in limbo. And you're not, I don't, you just strike me as like, based on your resume, you're not the kind of person to be stuck. So how did you move forward from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always like I always worked in crown corporations of the government. So in all of
Mm.
my roles, I was never fulfilled, right? So
I
I
work
always
there and I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I was never fulfilled. So I always had side hustles, right? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I had the dog kennel for that. So after I sold the dog kennel, me being me, I'm such an entrepreneur at heart, right? I call myself a serial entrepreneur because I was
Yeah.
always looking for something to satisfy my joys and my passions. And I wasn't getting that in the roles that I was in. Um, so I sold it in 2009 and I was still at the corporate in the Crown Corporation, uh, one of them, and I started selling cedar barrel saunas. Super random.
Oh. Yeah. Cool.
There were people I knew that sold them in Northern Ontario. I'm like, hey, I could sell those in Ottawa, right? Ottawa's got like big country, cottage country and whatnot. So, anyways, sold that for a year and a half. I think I sold like 22 in 18 months.
Wow.
I have one sitting in my backyard. I love saunas. Saunas are
Mhm.
so good for you to stay healthy. Unfortunately, carpenter ants have ruined my sauna. So
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, I haven't used it in about a year and a half. Now it's a glorified shed.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful barrel that sitting in my backyard that is holding my shovels and rakes and stuff
Yeah.
now.
Well, at least it'd be a nice looking shed.
Yeah, and then I think I sold like tea. I was like part of the steep tea family. I sold pet products. I started a packing business with one of my friends. And it was that after that business in 2013, I'm like, I'm done. I'm taking a
Mhm.
break. Because I actually got a really interesting job. This was with another Crown corporation called Export Development Canada.
Mhm.
And I got to coordinate all of their office openings around the world, the regional
Nice.
conferences around the world. So I got to
Okay.
travel to,
Mhm.
Dubai and South Africa and Colombia and Chile and some really, really cool places. I loved it, right? Because it was busy. I was
Yeah.
coordinator of all the coordinators around the world. And it was actually, I was doing a lot of onboarding with the new coordinators we had like 16 offices around the world. I was training them on their job. And it was something that I really enjoyed. And I was like, wow, I really like this.
Mhm.
Because I had a career counselor years ago ask me, he's like, Kyla, what truly brings you joy? Right.
Mhm.
And as I
Oh,
got older, I kept
mhm.
asking myself, what are the things that brings me joy?
Yeah.
And, it
An
was,
important question to reflect on, regardless of where you're at in your career. Absolutely, for sure. And it should be not because what brings you joy in 2013 isn't necessarily what's going to bring you joy 10 years later. Yeah.
and I keep asking myself that
Yeah.
question, right? Because like, when I really thought about it, I wrote it down. And
Mhm.
the three things that brought me joy was helping people, working with animals, and creativity.
Mhm.
And even today, those are still the three things that are important and bring me joy in my life.
Yeah.
But I had started that kind of conversation in the back of my mind, during those years that I was working there. And kind of like how the dog kennel thing happened, right? Because it happened organically. The
Mhm.
same thing happened with the dog training.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other businesses I did, it was like, oh, I need something. I need to do something, right?
Right. Yeah.
I seek them out versus them finding me.
Finding you. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas the dog training business, I just was at the park one day. A lady's like, she's got a pit bull. She's like, oh, I'm having issues with Chloe. I said, well, I owned a cage-free kennel for 7 years. Like, maybe I can help you out. So
Mhm.
started working with her. And then again, someone else just randomly. And I was like, wow, I'm like, I really, really, really like this.
Mhm.
So summer of 2017 is when I decided to sort of start Easy Breezy Dog Training. And my German Shepherd at the time, and you see her in those two photos there behind me, her name was Breeze.
Oh, okay. I wondered where the name
Yes,
came from. That's cool.
yeah. So when I had my cage-free dog kennel, I had Storm. Storm was my first dog. I got him when I was 16, put him down when I was 30, had him half my life.
Oh.
But he was an old man when I had the cage-free kennel. And I
Mhm.
wanted a younger dog to play with the young dogs
Mhm.
that came into the kennel because he's just like, no, I don't want
Yeah.
nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I'm old, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So I started looking to adopt, and Breeze was a rescue. She had unfortunately been badly beaten and abused as a puppy. I got her at 10 months old, had major fears, but she lived with me for the first 3.5 years of her life at at the farm when I had my cage-free kennel. So when I moved to this house that I'm in now, she was like, whoa, I've never seen traffic. I've never been walked on a
Boy.
leash. I've never been
Mhm.
home alone for 9 hours, 8 hours a day.
Mhm.
Right. So it was a big transition for her for the move.
Mhm.
And I had started doing a lot of training with her, like doing group classes. And one of the schools that I had found, Chantal, the owner of Ottawa Canine School, offered a dog trainer certification.
Oh
And for
yeah.
those that are listening and not watching the video, I'm using quotes here,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
as you know, there's
Okay.
no official, certification
Yeah.
in the dog training world. So, but she had this great program. It was 2 semesters every Sunday for like 5, 6 hours. The thing I liked about it was the second part was you bring your own dog and you're doing training with your own dog. So it was really cool to see Breeze, who was about 10 years old at that time,
Hmm.
literally teaching an old dog new tricks,
Wow.
which was really cool to see her kind of doing all these fun things. And she just loved to learn.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I did my certification there, and then Easy Breezy really started to move forward. And in 2019, um, that question that I had asked myself, what are the three things that bring me joy? I was
Mhm.
coming up to 20 years of graduating college. And I
Mm.
was like, and that was a big thing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Like, this is 20 years, like 20-year career. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Right. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, if I'm going to do this, it was the right time financially.
Mhm.
Right. That's the biggest thing. If you're going to jump in, because I'm doing this full time. Right. Again, I'm still single, and it's scary. Right. I have a mortgage. I'm by myself, one income. To
Mhm.
take that risk to do this full time, not to have that, pension and benefits and salary coming in biweekly. I really wanted to be in a better position than I did in 2012 when I decided to leave and do the packing business full time, because the financial stress I endured during that time was unbelievable. I've never felt stress like that in my life. So yeah, I took the plunge and decided to do this full time 5 years ago. And then pandemic hit, and I was like, oh my God, what did
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do?
Timing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So what
during the
was the
pandemic was the books. That's
Okay,
where,
I was gonna say then,
yeah,
so that happened. So what was the motivation to write your books? Because that during the pandemic, so many dog trainers, I'm again quotes, pivoted to something else. And I spent the whole pandemic developing online programs. And I also talk about certification. I developed because I'd been training dogs for over 20 years,
yeah,
opened up my online dog trainer training academy, and now it has since then morphed into a hybrid. You want to come and shadow with me? I don't have, and we meet twice a year for 4 days, but you want to come and shadow with me. So what was your pivot in you're actually pivoted before you even more or less got well grounded in easy breezy dog training. You were already on to your next venture. So tell us about that.
yeah. So, being a dog trainer, just seeing how important mental enrichment is, and really, like, all these games, like, I'm sure you'd agree, Karen, right? This has only come about in the last, right? Like all these puzzle toys, like there was
Yeah.
some, but it's not to the extent that is as it is today.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's largely, I don't know, maybe I'd be interested in your opinion on this. It's largely because more people have dogs. Like when I was a kid, I was the only kid on my street that walked the dog. Everybody had a dog, but they ran all over the neighborhood. So that's how they got their enrichment. Now with leash laws, with more people having dogs, more confinement for dogs, more dogs coming in from other countries that have got issues, people, it's kind of meeting
Genetics,
an obvious need. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
bad
What do,
genetics. I
what
think
do you,
there's
what
a
do you
lot of
think?
bad breeding. Yeah, a lot
Totally.
of bad breeding, a lot of bad genetics happening too. I'm seeing a lot of issues
Yeah.
there.
But
Um,
enrichment has become it's not a buzzword, it's a thing. But there's so many different ways to that people define it. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
And that they do it. So tell us what was
yeah.
more or less where you went with that.
Yeah, so over the years, just with Breeze, like really introducing enrichment to Breeze, so feeding outside the bowl, right? I started
Hmm.
snuffle mats, the hiding food around the house. I just saw how much she loved it.
Hmm.
And I used to board this crazy black lab named Dallas. So typical lab, right? You put the bowl of food down, it's like go
Yeah.
gone in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, and it was so cool to see. I put some of her kibble in a snuffle mat and some kibble in a bowl. And when I put them both down, I would bet $100 that Dallas would have finished that bowl and then move on to the snuffle mat. Mm-mm. She was sniffing and sniffing and sniffing
Oh,
in that
cool.
snuffle mat. And then you saw in the video, she puts her nose in the bowl of food, doesn't eat it, and continues sniffing. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
like, this just shows when dogs are sniffing and using the things that they're so natural at and that they love, right? Those 200, 300 million scent receptors.
Mhm.
That's when I really saw like, wow, this is so cool. And yeah, so I was just doing a lot of games with my own dogs, teaching this to my clients. And because of my background with creating a lot of, newsletters, and I used to do a lot of the fun events for our teams, like Christmas parties, and
Right.
like with the regional conferences, we did like team building events in the desert and Dubai, and like some really cool stuff. So
Mm.
with all that experience, I'm like, I can put something together. It was more so for my clients
Sure.
than the public. But as I started, when I started working on the book, I'm like, I'll have this done in 3 months. Yeah, right. Like a year and a half later, because
Yeah.
you've seen the book, right? Like it wasn't necessarily writing each of the games, but it was really all the videos and just having to tie it all together. Like, oh, that it was so much work. And I did it all myself, right? And videotape myself.
Oh,
And we talked about being a small business owners, and you have to have all these skills: video editing, photo editing, putting everything together. And
and
so I
scheduling
hired,
to do
yeah,
that.
it is. It's so time consuming. I
Mm.
did hire someone to help me sort of create the look and the branding.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
wanted to create, like, I have a separate company called Enrich Dog, and I wanted to separate Enrich Dog and Easy Breezy Dog Training because with the books, I was thinking Enrich Dog is going to be global,
Mhm.
whereas Easy Breezy is local,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Dog training's local, unless you even online, generally people still want to focus. They want to know where they can get to. They want that hand holding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was more sort of creating the Enrich Dog logo and sort of
Hmm.
that
Okay,
website. And then my books will fall under that kind of brand.
gotcha. Yeah.
Um, so she did a wonderful job designing the book. With all of my experience in life, I wanted things to be short and simple and easy to read, and also fun for
It is.
kids to flip
Mm-hmm.
through. Because
Hmm.
this was a big thing too, is I wanted to get the kids involved with the training. And I'm all
And
about the fun, right? I don't take myself too seriously. I have, a funny sense of humor. So I wanted to, make things fun and interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So is that where the idea for the coloring book for adults came from? Tell me about that.
That came later. So first,
Okay.
so Brain Games for Your Dog was published, I think November 2021, because I had started it during the pandemic. But like I said, right, it took me that year and a half to sort of get it to where it was. And I'm really glad I was patient. And I had gotten some great advice one time. It was like, Kyla, it takes time for things to form roots, for your roots to
Ah.
grow. Because
Mhm.
I was always used to be very impulsive and used to jump on things and not really think it through. And so this time I was like, no, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to make something really, really good. And I'm so glad I did that because I just love how it turned out.
Always quality over quantity, even in right down to a simple dog training thing. When people want to walk their dog 3 miles, and I say, no, just get them to walk 3 feet beside you to start with.
Yeah.
And good things do take time. So, and it shows in that book. It definitely shows. And I'm looking through and I'm going, wow, like this is like, it looks, it's a fast read. The exercises are quick to do, which could make someone think that you just put it together, but there's no way. The thought process, the organization, the branding, the colors, the flow, it's all that quality is evident. So the
Oh,
time that you
thank
took
you.
shows
Thank
up
you
for
so
sure. Yeah,
much.
highly
I really
recommend.
appreciate it. It was
Mhm.
it was pretty cool. On Sunday, I was at the Navin Market and got my table set up under my tent, and this lady walks by and she's like, "Oh," she's like, "I love this book." She's like, I worked at Pet Value and I was telling everyone to buy this book." I'm like, "Oh," she's like, "Are you the author? Oh my God, so nice to meet you." I'm
Isn't
like,
that
"Oh my
cool?
God, you have no idea what how you made me feel right now." It's just such a
Yeah.
good feeling
Yeah.
about that. So I love it when I get those reactions from
For
people,
sure.
right?
I was
Yeah.
at a fruit stand, a vegetable stand last weekend, a couple weeks ago, buying some stuff. I was on my way to the cottage, and I asked the lady if they had such and such, and a guy come around the corner and goes, "Are you Karen? I follow you on Instagram." And I went,
That's so cool.
"Thank you. I love your tips." And it is
Yeah.
cool. I know that feeling. I felt like it sort of took me back a little bit. I was looking around like, "Are you talking to me?" Yeah, it is cool. So yeah, and
Yeah.
it's well deserved in your case. Good for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Nice.
and so like I'm always looking, right? I'm always got my eyes and I'm always looking at stuff because that's just the business brain in me. Like I can't shut off the ideas that come through. I have a folder in my inbox that's all ideas and it's just like I just send stuff there and because I
I
told
use
myself
something called Notion now. It's a software and you can use it on your phone. I get an idea and I call up Notion, I speak into my phone and I say, and I'll put the outline to it. Same thing. We are idea machines. The skill comes from the implementation. And everyone, I think as humans, we're generally ideas machines, but to have the discipline to be able to take that favorite idea and sit down and see it through. Dog training is one thing. You can start dog training from the hip, but to sit down and, I mean, not necessarily be successful at it, but you can still start it from the hip, but to put it into the products that you're talking about, the two books that you've created, that's where it's okay. Now I'm more than just an ideas machine. Now we have to go, but it is fun to keep putting those ideas into play.
it is, and I had some good feedback from, or not feedback, but uh, an opinion, not an opinion, but I guess feedback from a career counselor. He told me, he's like, you love the creation part of an idea, right? You like that front part where you're, like creating the branding, the design, the looks, all of that. So he's like, you love that.
Yeah.
He's like, where you have trouble with is afterwards, all that legwork to sort of get that product. It's relatively easy to publish a book.
Mhm.
It is so much work for the advertising and marketing and learning Amazon ads and getting it out there. Like I have to hustle. I have
Yeah. Yeah.
to reach out to people like you, right? Like I had, the reason how you and I became connected is because I was seeing your videos and I like your sense of humor and your sort of straight shooter. And I was like, oh my God, she's like perfect for, like the My Dog's an Asshole and the brain
Yeah.
game book stuff. But the adult coloring book, so, I'll show them here. So, I call it like PG-13 and PG,
Ah.
same content, but just this one, is cheekier.
Mhm.
Right? Because how many times I'm like, oh, you're such an asshole, right? They're not, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're not. It's like that center page in the book, whereas like your dog's not the asshole. You
That's
are,
you
which
are.
you're
Yeah.
not, but you need to take the time to train him. They're behaving the way they are behaving because you've allowed that, right?
Years ago, one of my favorite dog people, as you know, was the president of the International Association of Canine Professionals for a year or so, and I've been a director and I'm still a member. Anyways, a guy named George Cockrell came on stage and he said he runs really excellent group classes. I think he's in Georgia or somewhere down there, but anyway, it doesn't matter. His line struck, and that's why your books resonated with me because his line was this. He came out and said, "All you people think you've got to do this, 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 and this." He said, "Really? Dogs do things for one of two reasons because they think they can or they think they have to, and your average pet owner just wants their dog to stop being an asshole." And then I saw your book and I went, that is it.
It is.
That's
It
it.
is. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's true, they don't, you see videos with the precision, all this precision healing and so on. And that's all fun and great for those people. But your average pet owner, A, doesn't want to work that hard,
no,
B, doesn't need that kind of precision, and C, just wants the dog to not be an asshole so they can live with him. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like just being on Amazon, right? Because like we're all home, we can't go anywhere. And I was just flipping through and I was like, holy crap, these adult coloring books have like
Oh.
25,000 4 5 stars. And it's like, F this shit, and it's like, these stoner ones, and there's all these different ones that have like crazy amount of sales. I was like, oh my God, I've got to do something like that. It was more so because I could see how popular these adult coloring books were. So I just decided to do something funny, right? It was so fun to create. And all the dogs in here, they're all actually clients' dogs
Well,
that
I
I
noticed that they've all got names and they've all got these, these character eyes and the character expressions on their face. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
cool.
and all the photo like those are the photos I took of the dogs because I
Okay.
always yeah, I always do a welcome to the pack post with all my new clients. So I
Mhm.
always take a photo of the dog. So those are actually all the photos I took at our welcome to the pack, and then converted them. I had someone create them into cartoons, and then it was kind of like you've seen, on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, the dog shaming. When you've got that sign in front of them,
Yes.
which I've done. Like when Breeze passed away in 2018, I didn't have a dog for 2.5 years. Like I only adopted Finley in October 2020. I
Okay.
wasn't ready yet emotionally to have another dog. And
Everyone grieves differently when their dogs pass. Some people go right
yeah,
away and others take time. Yeah.
I
Mm.
needed the time. And not
Sure.
just that, but because I was wanting to do my business full time financially, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive to have a pet nowadays. And I
Having to
didn't
do it right, it is, that's for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I didn't have that disposable income because I was just left a job. Wasn't making very much money that first year. So, but Finley was a client of mine's dog. But during that, sorry, before I get to Finley, but in that 2.5 years after Breeze passed away, I did board and train.
Okay.
And so I did a lot of dog shaming, right? Like I came home, and it's actually one of the things in here, my birthday check. My mom always sends me $110 every year for my birthday to pay for my license sticker. Now that we don't have to pay for those, I'm like, hey, mom, I actually get to spend that money now. Um, but I came home and the dogs had like ripped it up, right? But I had three of them, and I was like, so I shamed them all. I'm like, somebody ate so, I would do all these funny little dog shaming. So that's kind of where that sort of dog shaming post comes on the left side. Like that's
Yeah.
what that sign is for. And then I call them smart ass training tips, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
so it's a mix of fun coloring as well as dog training tips. And then one of my favorite mental enrichment things is I call them circuits. So it's training, right?
All that. Yeah.
Do a bunch of the fun. So that's why back here, you scan this and it's Finley and I showing you how to do
Yeah.
all these fun little circuits and stuff with your dog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that came about. They've been really popular. Like I do a monthly market and people are walking by like, oh, I called my dog that this morning.
Oh,
And
cool. Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
resonates. It generally resonates with people. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had the Brain Game book translated to French because, being in Ottawa, I'm also bilingual. I'm French.
Mhm.
This is actually my top seller, and France is my number one market on Amazon.
Wow, congratulations. Good for
Yeah,
you. That's
thank you.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. So
Cool.
I hired someone. I hired a translator to translate it, which is definitely an investment in itself too.
Sure.
You could go and create stuff, but I find Amazon is so diluted with crap, with books. So you really like
Not only with books, with the products too.
with products too, right? So I wanted things to look nice. I actually did this one myself, just
Okay.
funds, right? Funds were tight. I had already spent the money on the dog images, but so you do have to, yeah, decided to spend like I invested in myself, right? I
Yeah, yeah.
invested in these books, which are going to pay off in the long run. That passive income.
So yeah, so that's yeah, so there was the key. Two
Yep.
things that you just mentioned there that I want people to really resonate with. Self-investment.
Yep.
You've gone through your in your resume here as well as on your website. You talk about and you've referenced it here a couple of times. The things that you've invested in for yourself to make your business success, to create your
Yep.
own business success, but it requires self-investment. The best investment you can make is in yourself,
Yep.
clearly. And
100%.
the second one was, what was I talking about? I lost my train of thought there. But the second part was just getting it out there and recognizing that it has to look good, but there's also sweat equity involved in that.
Big time. Yep.
especially when you're new.
Yep.
It's easy when you get to a certain point where you can keep investing, or hiring people to do stuff for you, but there's a certain satisfaction in being attached to your work. But also, I mean, at the beginning, it is work. Sweat equity is not just an 8 hour, 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's 24/7 most of the time. You wake up, you go to sleep, you're thinking about it, you wake up, you're thinking about it. And I still do that after 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was part of like my 5-year plan, right? Like I'm at the end of that 5-year plan. The first 3 years, I really wanted to focus on the training and like the business,
Yep.
like the dog training side of things. The last 2 years, I wanted to really build that passive income.
Mhm. That was
But
the other side, the passive
yeah,
income.
and like the passive income, it sounds like, oh, you build it and then that's it, right? It is not.
Yeah.
But I with my own clients, I created an online academy, which, I filmed all the videos. All of my private training puppy, I created these fun little homework postcards. So
Hmm.
it's all like the training videos that you get online, but there's like a QR code. I'm big on QR codes and videos and stuff. So people love those. The online training academy, just to have access to all those videos, all the training and stuff. So created that. I also sell it standalone as well, right? Because the whole
Yeah.
online training stuff really kind of blew up, especially during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So building that side of the passive income as well. And then, I have a few dog trainers that sell my online services to their clients. So, kind of making a little bit of money there.
So is that
Um,
like an affiliate program,
Sort of,
or
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And we had
affiliate
talked
marketing,
about, yeah, the Amazon affiliate, right? Trying
right?
to, build up on that as well. So I have like multiple, if you look at my, income statement in the month, I have multiple revenue streams, right? Some of them are not very big, but if you add them up over time, like at the end of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
It's extra money and that's just going to continue to grow and build.
Hmm.
And, like it would be great if I can, make between 20 and 40,000 a year and just passive income, right?
Just in
Like,
passive income.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the passive reference is a little bit of a misnomer.
yes,
I refer to it as residual. It's extra income for things that you've already worked on that you
yeah,
continue to build, because there is always work in promoting it and making sure that it's still relevant, because relevance is, especially in dog training,
huge.
you keep updating, and like you say, QR codes versus just sending a link. And it's not free income. It's not work once and leave it alone forever. It's ongoing, but it
Ongoing.
it's the right time for it. It's the 21st century. That's where our market is.
It is 100%. And just having to learn all these new softwares and apps and like it's just I'm always learning something, right? And it's exhausting at sometimes, right? And also just the whole social media side of the business, like
Up.
creating videos and, content, like those that are watching and who haven't done it, it is a lot of time that we take out of our day to create these videos. And people don't realize how much work it is. Yeah.
No, because when you're good at it, you make it look easy.
Yes.
So people
100%.
that don't understand the behind the scenes things think that it's just easy. And it's not, like you
No.
say. And the commitment that you make to ongoing education, you have to be ready and willing to learn something new, even if it's some little thing, or embrace something new. Social media has been a big one for a lot of people, and we only see the people that are on it, and of course it grows and grows and grows. But that commitment to ongoing education is a game changer. That's the difference between success and not.
Yep. Oh yeah. You have to be posting, you have to be creating content, and it's just something that, you have to make time in your business to do. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's part of business now.
it is.
It's part of everyday business in the 21st century,
Yeah.
I think, to be
And it's
successful.
people like, oh, I want to be a dog trainer. I'm like, okay, you realize you're not really a dog trainer, right? I'm a people trainer. We're training people on how to train their dogs. So you have to have those people skills to be able to teach, and everybody learns differently, right? So a lot of my content that I created is visual. It's also written. It's
Mhm.
the combination of the two.
Yeah.
A lot of my material is more condensed, short form, easier to digest versus, those big,
On details.
long,
Yeah. Yeah.
which people just gonna glance over. And so, right, you have to adjust your style. And then when you're in a house with four kids running around screaming and you're trying to, teach, everybody how to handle a puppy,
Right. Oh, yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a
And
lot.
it is a lot. And when I say to people, when I'm talking to my students in my dog trainer school is, and I've asked this question when I've spoke on stage to, to dog trainers, what business are you in? And most of them say either the dog training business or the people training business. They're both partly correct. But what business are we really in? We're really in the relationship business,
Yeah.
building relationships both with the dogs and with the people. And I'm just going to do a little shameless self promotion here, but that's what my September 16th webinar is all about, is
Oh, perfect.
teaching,
Good.
is geared to business owners, whether they're dog trainers or not, but it's how you are perceived by others is what influences what direction the relationship goes. And you mentioned it a few times, style. Everyone has one. Not everyone's aware of it. And
Yep.
not everyone's aware of how their style is perceived by others. And that is the essence of success in business, in my view. And you've demonstrated that time and
Yeah.
again with your successes and your evolution along the way. It's so exciting.
Yeah. And it's, I think you have to be really open and be adaptable, right? My business does not look the same as what it did 5 years ago, right? Things have changed and I've tried things that just, I'm like, you know what? First of all, I always ask myself, am I really enjoying this? I don't want to do things I don't enjoy anymore, right? I
Yeah.
consider this my semi-retirement.
Mhm.
And I just want to do things that bring me joy and I really love doing. And there's been some things that, one thing I realized I'm not a huge fan of big group classes. I
Yeah.
don't
Join the
enjoy
club.
I don't enjoy group classes. I
Yeah.
have my clients that want them, so I do some, but they're small. I do no more than four dogs. I do my scent classes. I love scent classes because that's just something I just so fascinating to see
Ties
that.
into the enrichment piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all enrichment. And then I do a leash manners class just because a lot of my clients, right,
Mhm.
leash manners is a skill and everybody thinks let's just slap a leash on a puppy and let's go for a walk, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I know, I'm with you. And that's probably jumping and leash manners are probably it. My group class model is an eligibility system where they're all private clients like you, and then they qualify to do, it's just a pack walk group
Yep.
association class. We do a variety of things, but they have to be eligible. And they don't even know that until I invite them.
Oh, and that's good framework. That's
They
cool.
don't get invited. There's usually a reason, but they don't know because they don't know about the class.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I do a free pack walk. I offer them once every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
The days and times change because I try to, accommodate everyone.
Cool.
Everybody can join.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it gives my clients the opportunity to practice the things that we're learning, right? So no greetings, no leash greetings, teaching their
Right.
dogs how to be neutral. And we just go for a walk together.
Yeah.
And we're all
Yep.
kind of walking in a line. And if someone stops, we all stop,
Mhm.
letting your dog sniff. It's more of a kind of adventure safari walk. And yeah, so that's one thing I've been doing that for years
That's
and
for
I
your
love it.
clients?
Yeah,
Your client.
just for
Yeah,
my clients.
I used to do something similar to that years ago, and then I stopped for the same reason that you mentioned. There was a point where it wasn't bringing me joy because I didn't have the backup or the help, and it just got to be working a full-time job,
Yeah.
running a full-time business. That was just one thing that had to go away.
Yeah.
And
How long
so,
ago, Karen, did you quit your full-time job to do this full-time? How long ago
well,
was that?
yeah, my story is a little bit different. I didn't quit my full-time job. I
Okay.
retired from it.
You retired?
Because
Okay.
I didn't have the courage to step out and take that financial risk because I knew that's what it was going to be. And I did the numbers. I added up the numbers on what I would leave on the table from a pension perspective. And I thought, I don't really think I want to give that money back to the government. So I
Yeah.
stuck it out. I was doing burning the candle at both ends for 8 years
Mm.
before I finally took my side hustle full time. And I literally retired one day and was fully booked the next day. So it was not a model I would recommend for people starting out, but
Yeah.
I'm driven that way. I didn't even notice it because the dog training continues to this day to give me so much joy that
Yeah.
to me it was therapy to get me through the workday.
Yeah. I hear you.
And
I
that
hear you.
was yeah, so and then I started my business in 2006, but I retired in 2014.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
So been
and
retired since
five, six
2014.
six years ahead of schedule because I could. So
Oh,
that
nice.
was the compromise. Like I didn't have to stay right till the bitter end. I
Gotcha.
stayed until I could get a livable, decent amount of income. To talk about
Yep.
passive income, that money comes in all the time.
Yep.
And I had built my business. I had hit all of my financial goals that I had set out in my business. I had a 5-year plan that went 8 years, but I had made all of those targets really early. And then from then on, it was evolving the programs. How do I want to, how do I want to move forward? Do I want help? Do I not want help? And at one point before the pandemic, I had 4 trainers and an
Okay.
admin assistant. And then the pandemic came, and I realized even then, I'm a real believer in the universe, a
Yep.
power of the universe. And I thought, you know what, the universe is telling me something here. I wasn't enjoying having that kind of roster around me, and they were all good. That's nothing to do with them. It was just I wasn't doing the things that brought me joy,
Hmm.
which was, hands on the dogs and so on. So that was where the idea for my dog trainer school came from, because I love helping dog
Yeah.
trainers and watching them succeed and seeing them even more than having clients. And I thought with the 40 plus years I have in dogs, I resonated with your field dog experience because that's where I started. I trained retrievers for 20
Oh,
years
cool. Yeah.
for competition. And I can, you and I as trainers, we can train clients one-on-one, but we can train hundreds of clients if we train somebody else to train them.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where that was what was my
Yeah.
sort of side story there. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
our,
had decided during the pandemic, I had considered opening up a school, like having a brick and mortar,
oh yeah.
and started looking at commercial space. And I was just like, I don't want the stress. I don't want
Yeah.
the stress of insurance, staff, all of that stuff. I was like, I'm making good money doing what I'm doing as it is, and I love it. Why go and add more stress to my plate? And I decided not to.
Yeah.
So
And that
yeah.
that makes it that's a key point when you mentioned you're making good money doing what you're doing. And for people that are listening to this that are thinking about, I'm going to be a dog trainer because Kyla makes it sound like so much fun, and it is, but you have
It's
to
so
be
much
watching.
work.
Yeah, it's work, but you want to watch your numbers.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
having 4 staff meant I had to have that many more dogs,
Yep.
and that money wasn't necessarily coming to my pocket.
Yep.
So and so it is that all comes back to that magic question, what brings you joy?
Yep.
I think that's the $1 million question that everyone should always be constantly revisiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do this in all of my aspects of my life.
Mhm.
The people that I surround myself with, the activities that I do, right? I don't want to do anything that doesn't bring me joy. I did a 8-week mindfulness class last year, and one of the questions that it was given to us the week before, so we had a week to sort of, and it was every day, morning, afternoon, evening. What are the things that suck your energy? What are
Mm,
the things that contribute to the energy, and what are neutral things that don't take
mm,
energy or don't necessarily give you energy? And it was really cool to see, like even just waking up and having that cup of coffee in the morning. I'm like, I
yeah.
love this. Like, I love sitting
Yeah.
here outside on my swing with Finley with my laptop, kind of like, I love this routine
Mhm.
and just everything. So it just makes me, all aspect of my life now is like that.
And we're only on this earth for a short time. As much as, if you're 20 something and you're watching this right now and you go, those two gals are so old, I'll never be that old. And we all have that thought in our 20s, we'll never be that old. And then
Mhm.
one day you are, and it seems just like that, you are.
Yep.
So it's important at this point to understand that joy doesn't mean selfishness.
No.
It means fulfillment. And when you're joyful with yourself, you have greater capacity to bring joy to others.
100%.
And that's
Yep.
how it works.
Mhm.
So we could talk all
I know.
day.
I
This is
know.
so much fun. I've so enjoyed getting to know you even better.
Yeah.
This is so much fun. We'll definitely have to have you back on the show because there's a whole bunch of notes I've made here that we could go off on all kinds of different tangents. But what's the one piece of advice that you want listeners to walk away with to based on your success, but what's one piece of advice you would give them to have their own success in their business?
Um, Take the time to really create a solid business plan and really crunch the numbers and make sure that you are financially able to do this without that stress, right? Because in 2012, I quit my full-time job. My ex and I broke up. I bought the house from him. I had zero income coming in. I had debt to pay. It was not fun. Whereas
Mhm.
this time around when I did it, I had 10 months of emergency house funds saved up, no debt, still have a mortgage, but have tenants paying, helping pay the bills. So it just made things a lot more. I didn't have that financial stress behind me, but I took the time to create a solid business plan, and and then just working at it, right? You just have to continue work it. The biggest thing that I learned in life with all the different businesses I have, you can have the best product or service in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to sell anything.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it takes time to build that reputation and for you to build up that social media presence and content and things like that. So, that's kind of the next journey I want to do is I want to be able to sort of help those that are getting into the dog training or boarding or whatever field, right? There's so many branches off of in the pet industry, is to be able to give them something to help them along with their business that like I was searching,
Well,
grabbing things from
yeah,
everywhere. And
that yeah, that was the motivator for me too. Is like so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah.
Yeah.
And something
Oh,
affordable, because I find, like, when you're first starting out, you don't have that a ton of extra money to,
exactly.
invest. So I really want to try to make things affordable, especially nowadays where everything is so freaking expensive.
Expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on that note, how can people find more, learn more about your expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of my social media handles are all Easy Breezy Dogs. My website is easybreezydogs.com. You can send me an email as well. All of my books are available on Amazon, or if you're in Canada, you can buy them directly from me. I invested a lot of money. I found a local printer and I bought 2,500 books. And so I've got some money that I invested and I'm hoping to make back. But if you buy from me directly, you're actually getting it from me in an envelope with a little note. But Amazon, you can get those as well. And yeah,
Excellent. Excellent.
thank
Well,
you so much.
I'm going to encourage everyone to check out Kyla's resources. And once again, I thank you so much, Kyla. And for those of you that are listening, please share this with a business buddy because there are so many people struggling right now. And you can see with their dogs, for one thing, as well as in looking for the right avenue to take in business. Share this. No one should have to suffer in this short time that we're on earth. Should enjoy your dog and should enjoy your business. And Kyla, thank you once again for your time. And I look forward to having you back. I'm Karen Laws, the Interior Dog Trainer. This has been Paws and Profits podcast. Thanks for joining in.